Picture a small Russian town on a drowsy afternoon. The market square sits half empty, the kind of stillness that only fills a place when nothing much has happened yet, but is about to. Stalls stand open with their bolts of cloth and their strings of onions. A few pigeons pick at nothing in particular, and then, cutting through that quiet like a brass band through a library, comes Police Inspector Oshumilov. He is a large man in a new overcoat, moving with the particular swagger of a man who has never once doubted his own importance. His constable, Yildiriev, trots behind him, carrying a confiscated basket of gooseberries, a detail that tells you everything about how these two men spend their days. Ochumilov's eyes sweep the square the way a landlord's eyes sweep a room he owns, and then he notices it. A small commotion near the merchant Pichikin's woodpile. A little knot of people leaning in, murmuring, the way crowds always do when something worth watching has finally happened. He adjusts his coat. He clears his throat, and he strides toward it, because scenes like that are precisely what a man like Ochumilov lives for. He doesn't hurry, mind you. A man of authority never hurries. He arrives, and there, sitting on the ground, holding up one bleeding finger like an accusation, is a goldsmith named Kryukin. And beside him, trembling, ears flat, tail between its legs, is a very small, very confused little dog. Ochumilov plants himself in the center of the circle and looks down at Kryukin the way a judge looks at a man already convicted. "What's going on here?" he booms. And Kryukin, a wiry, red-faced man with a finger wrapped in a rag, launches into his case. The dog bit him, unprovoked, right there in broad daylight. Look at the finger. Look at it. He works with these hands. He has a brother in the gendarmerie, you know. He expects justice. Ochumilov listens with the gravity of a man solving an international crisis. Then he turns to the dog and narrows his eyes. Whose dog is this? Silence from the crowd. Nobody seems certain. Stray, looks like, someone offers. That is all Ochumilov needs. He draws himself up to his full magnificent height and announces, loudly so the whole square can hear, that the dog must be destroyed, immediately, without question. The law is the law, and dogs that bite citizens are a menace to society and a disgrace to civilized Russia. He is magnificent. He is unstoppable. The crowd murmurs approvingly. Kryukin beams. Justice, it seems, is swift and sure in this square today. The little dog shivers in the dirt and looks up at everyone with bewildered, trusting eyes. And then, just as the verdict hangs triumphant in the autumn air, someone in the back of the crowd says, quite casually, "You know, I think that might be the general's dog." You could watch the change move across Ochumilov's face, the way weather moves across an open field. One moment, iron certainty. The next, a cloud. The general's dog. He coughs. He tugs at his collar. Well, now, one must be careful about these things. Suddenly, the dog isn't mangy at all. Suddenly, it's rather a fine little animal, delicate, well-bred. And Kryukin? Well, Kryukin probably provoked it. Probably stuck something sharp in its nose. These types always do. The crowd shifts. Kryukin sputters. But then someone else speaks up. No, the general doesn't own a dog like that. I don't think it's his. And back Ochumilov swings. Destroy the beast, disgraceful creature, vermin in a respectable square. Then, actually, I heard the general's brother is visiting from Petersburg. He brought dogs. Swing. Beautiful animal. Gentle by nature. The victim is clearly exaggerating. Look at the size of that finger compared to the size of that mouth. It's hardly credible. Krukin looks from face to face as the ground keeps shifting beneath him. Ochamelov's constable, Yildiriev, watches all of this with the carefully blank expression of a man who has seen it many times before and has decided, wisely, to hold his gooseberries and say absolutely nothing. The little dog, for its part, continues to tremble, confused, frightened, and entirely innocent of the diplomatic crisis unfolding around it. And then, through the crowd, comes a man in a cook's apron. He belongs to the general's household. Everyone knows his face. Ochamelov turns to him with the careful dignity of a man who has been consistent all along. "Is this your master's dog?" The cook looks at the little animal, squints. "No," he says, "we don't have one like that." And just like that, Ochamelov is back. Destroy it. Case closed. But a cook looks again, tilts his head, and says, "Well, actually, it does look a bit like one the general's brother brought with him. The general's brother, Grigory Stepanovich. He's fond of these little borzoi types." The square holds its breath. Ochamelov holds his breath. Even the pigeons seem to pause. Then Ochamelov's face arranges itself into an expression of warm, almost fatherly tenderness. He looks at the dog. "A sweet little thing," he says, softly, as if he has always thought so. "Lively, spirited, no need to make a fuss." He turns to Kryukin with a look that suggests the man has been wasting everyone's time. "You ought to be ashamed, going around alarming people over a little scratch. You probably caught your finger on a nail, and now you want someone to pay for your clumsiness." Kryukin opens his mouth, closes it. The crowd, which has been watching this performance with great pleasure, begins to laugh. Not unkindly, but not kindly either. The cook scoops the little dog up in his arms, and the dog, relieved at last to be held by someone who means it no harm, licks his chin. Off they go, back toward the general's house, back toward warmth and dinner, and a soft place to sleep. The crowd watches them go. Then it begins to dissolve, the way crowds do when the entertainment has run its course, already retelling the story to itself, already laughing at the best parts. Kryukin is left standing there with his wrapped finger and his dignity in pieces, which the crowd clearly feels is perhaps what he deserves for making such a fuss over a dog the size of a boot. And Okumalov straightens his new overcoat. He squares his shoulders. He looks around the square with the serene expression of a man who has just handled a difficult matter with great professionalism. Then he turns, nods once to Yildiriev and his gooseberries, and strides off down the road, his boot heels ringing against the cobblestones, his chin held high. Not a flicker of embarrassment, not a single backward glance. Now, that is the whole story. And what I love about it, what old Chekhov understood so perfectly, is that nobody in that square is surprised. Not one person. The crowd laughed, yes, but they knew. They always knew. Some people, you see, don't change their colors to hide. They change them simply because the powerful are watching. And that, my dear, is a very old kind of creature indeed.